So when I first got back into the hobby, I was not actually about Blue Eyes at all. What I was interested in was Yugi's main deck, specifically the Battle City one. But at the time, the collecting scene isn't like today. I had to go digging for what cards were used by Yugi, as well as what rarities does the collecting community value the most. In today's video, I'm going to be presenting to you guys the ultimate Dark Magician collector's guide, basically going over every single rarity, every single artwork, as well as what the community holds in the highest regards and some cheaper options for those of you on a budget. Let's get into it. Alright, so we're gonna start off with the artwork that most people recognize, and that is the anime artwork. This artwork was kicked off by two different variants, the Dark Duel Stories, and then there's the Starter Deck Yugi First Edition. Now, Dark Duel Stories predates SDY by a couple of weeks, so if you are really picky, I would say that this is the first time that Dark Magician appeared in this artwork here. But a lot of people would actually choose the Starter Deck Yugi over the Dark Duel Stories because for some reason, this card was not executed well in the TCG. The DDS Dark Magician is highly overvalued in a lot of collectors' opinions. To me, I definitely think that the Starter Deck Yugi is the best Dark Magician in the game. In terms of price, I would say DDS outpaces SDY by maybe a couple $100, but in PSA 10, I would definitely say that SDY is more coveted by collectors. Some cheaper alternatives for DDS, the recently released Adidas Dark Magician, that one actually looks a lot better than the DDS Dark Magician, and it has that same prismatic foiling. So if you're looking for a good copy of that, I would definitely tell you stay away from the DDS and go grab yourself an Adidas copy because that one is absolutely gorgeous. Now for Starter Deck Yugi, there are a lot more alternatives because this was printed in ultra rare. I would definitely say that the first edition is the peak and the creme de la creme of all Dark Magicians. However, there are alternatives and they start with the Starter Deck Yugi Unlimited version, and with that you actually get a huge drop in price. I'm pretty sure that the SDY Unlimited is only about like $20 or $30 at best. So you are getting a huge amount of savings for pretty much the exact same card without the first edition stamp. And if $30 is still above your budget, I totally understand. So I picked out two different variants for you. There's the CT13, which was released in 2016, and then there's the Dusa or Duelist Saga Dark Magician that was released in 2017. Both of these are ultra rares. They look very similar to the original. Now obviously the original has its own prestige and can't be replaced, but if you are looking for cheaper copies, these are the ones I would recommend. But that's not all. The anime artwork Dark Magician actually comes in the original secret rare from Upper Deck. This, in my opinion, is the best looking copy of Dark Magician, and it does not even come close. If you are looking for a nice, clean, good looking copy of the Dark Magician for a fairly reasonable price while still being collectible, I would say that this is the choice for you because BPT-001 is the Dark Magician that I would choose if value did not mean anything. This card is absolutely majestic. It is truly gorgeous, and it was released as a promo card, so that makes it very cheap. Now it still has a lot of value. It goes for around $100 to $200 depending on condition, but if you want like a mild play copy, you can get it for as cheap as $40-50. That's pretty solid if you're looking for a vintage Dark Magician with an incredible rarity that has never been reprinted. But that's the BPT-001. The next version of this anime art, I would say, is for people who are trying to collect modern stuff, who are trying to pack open and pull a huge card, and that is the Ghost from the Past Ghost Rare Dark Magician. This one is an anime artwork and it is extremely expensive at around $300 to $400, and you can get the product for it for fairly cheap if you're trying to pull one. So if you're a modern collector and you're trying to get some really coveted vintage cards, I would definitely say that the Ghost from the Past one is the best option for you. You can see that there's actually not a lot of variants now that you really think about it, and the only one that actually had some alternatives is the Starter Deck Yugi one, which was a basic ultra rare. If I was to rank these, I would definitely say that the BPT-001 is the best value for your money. The second would be Starter Deck Yugi. The third would definitely be Dark Duel Stories or the Adidas Dark Magician. And then lastly, I would definitely say is the Ghost Rare, as it really doesn't fit the card, but it is very coveted in the Yu-Gi-Oh community. But that's the coverage of the anime art. Now let's get into the LOB art, or the artwork that actually introduces Dark Magician to us in the TCG.
So
So this artwork was on the rookie card of Dark Magician in the TCG, and it was introduced in Legend of Blue Eyes. Now the first edition wavy and glossy variants are the creme de la creme of this card. There isn't really anything that comes close, and it's not even like by a close margin. In terms of alternatives, there's obviously the unlimited version, but I don't recommend that as Konami always reprints this copy. If I was to go for a collectible version that is not first edition, I would definitely go for the LOB-EN variant, and that card still has a lot of value, but it is not like absurd in the $1,000 range. A cheaper alternative that is also very collectible, I would definitely say, is the Retro Pack 1, as I mentioned earlier. That one goes for around $300 to $400, and then in really good condition can go for $500 plus. There's one more variant if you really can't afford the LOB-EN or the LOB Unlimited, and that is the YGLD-ENC09. This copy was released in 2015, so it's fairly inexpensive if you're a budget collector and you're trying to get this artwork. But that's the ultra rare. There was another copy of this card released in super rare, and that is the Starter Deck Evolution Dark Magician. In my opinion, is the best option for budget collectors, but there is a secret rare variant that was released alongside the BPT-001 Dark Magician, and that is the 007 one. This was pretty much a secret rare version of this card, and I would say it's pretty much the most collectible promo version of this card. However, I do think that the alternative for this card, which is the Forbidden Legacy or FL1 Dark Magician, is a cleaner copy of this, and that is because the cardstock that was used on the FL1 matches vintage Yu-Gi-Oh! A lot more than the BPT version. So if you are trying to choose between the two, I would definitely maybe consider FL1 before going for the BPT version for this artwork, simply because of that. But that's pretty much the LOB artwork. This one does not have a lot of reprints, and the main copies that a lot of people chase is the ultra rare variant from LOB as well as Retro Pack 1. Now we're gonna get into the community's most hated and despised Dark Magician, while at the same time it's Konami's favorite and most reprinted Dark Magician, and that is the tablet artwork. So the first appearance of this card, and in my opinion the one that most people will go after when they go after this card, the PCY or Power of Chaos Yugi version. This card was only released in the limited edition variant, and that is the pyramid packaging. It was not released in the rectangle packaging. This card is prismatic rare, so it looks very similar to the Dark Duel Stories Dark Magician, and it has no cheaper alternatives. This is definitely the one that a lot of people will go after if they're trying to get this artwork. However, there are other rarities because Konami, for some reason, they just have this obsession with this artwork, and the first one would come at DB1 or Dark Beginning 1 as an ultra rare. I would say that this version is the most expensive ultra rare. There are two other cheaper alternatives, and that's the Legendary Collection, and that one has been printed to hell and back. There are so many copies of Legendary Collection Dark Magician that I'd recommend you stay away from it entirely. Now, a rarity that I would recommend for this card is definitely the secret rare. I think the secret rare looks fantastic on this, and the first printing of that was in Legendary Collection Yugi's World. However, I would recommend you go for the unlimited variant instead of the first edition, because the unlimited, the secret rare pattern, it just looks way better, and it's way cheaper as well. Now, if that one is not in your budget, I would recommend the Speed Duel one, because that one is truly gorgeous. The colors pop on that, and I'm pretty sure you can get it for under 10 bucks, so it will make a great slot in your binder. Now, the most expensive version of this card is probably like the ugliest one, and that is the Dual Terminal Preview Dark Magician. This one is also tablet artwork just like the others, but this one has a very cheap level of foiling to it. It was released as a promo card on the first Dual Terminal, and this one goes for like $200-300, so it's like crazy money. It's very sought after because it's rare, but in terms of rarity, I would argue it's probably like the worst one. Like, it just looks so bad compared to the others. I would recommend you stay away from it. If you are on a budget, I would definitely say that you don't need this card at all in your collection. You'd be much better off going with like the ultra rare or the prismatic or the secret rare. But if you do want to collect it in every rarity and Dual Terminal Preview is not in your budget, there is an alternative, and that is the Dual Terminal, just the regular Dual Terminal one. This one is pretty much the exact same as the preview one, it's just way cheaper. So that's Dual Terminal. The last and the most unique copy of this card, I would definitely say, is the Ultimate Rare, which was released in the starter decks. This card, I would definitely say that you should stick to first edition because the Unlimited was printed to oblivion. So the first edition copy is extremely cheap. You can still get it for like, I think $20-30 in first edition, so you might as well do that. It's extremely unique. There's no other Ultimate Rares like it, and I don't even believe there's an Ultimate Rare Dark Magician in the TCG other than that one. So it has a lot of identity, and it has a very unique rarities. So I would definitely recommend you add that one to your collection. Alright, so that's pretty much it on Konami's favorite artwork and the top 3 artworks that are used in Yu-Gi-Oh! Now let's get into some alternative artworks that do not get a lot of love from Konami in terms of printing. The first one would definitely be the Kazuki Takahashi special artwork. Now this card appeared only twice in the TCG and it was released the same way every time. The first time was in 2011 and it was coded JUMP in the set code, and the second time was in 2016 where it was coded JMPS instead of JUMP. It's also important to note that the main difference between these two is that the limited edition stamp was shifted to the bottom on the 2016 copy. This card is extremely unique and pretty much every Dark Magician collector needs to have this in their collection. So the first edition copy, or like the first release, is like $100 plus. The second one you can get for quite a bit cheaper and not a lot of people know about it, frankly. So you might be able to pick yourself up a deal here for pretty much the same artwork. But I mean, yeah, that was short and sweet. There isn't really too many printings of this card. The next one has even less, and that is the Arcana Dark Magician. Now for the Arcana Dark Magician, it was only released once. This card was done so dirty. It was released in Yu-Gi's legendary decks, and it's pretty much like a promo card. It is extremely cheap. It definitely deserves like a secret rare or an ultimate rare printing, but alas, we did not get anything like that in the TCG. It goes for around like $5 to $10. You can get it for very cheap, but it's a must-have because if you're trying to get all the Dark Magicians, this is one of them, and we never got any alternatives. The code for this one is YGLD-ENB002. So if you are trying to add it to your collection, this is the one you have to go with. Let's get into the next artwork, which is the movie one, The Dark Side of Dimensions Dark Magician. So this one was released in 2016, and the only viable copy for this, in my opinion, is the Ultra Rare and then the reprinted Secret Rare. The Secret Rare was printed a lot more than the Ultra. The Ultra is the rookie card for this artwork, so if you're trying to pick it up, you have to go with that one. But the Secret Rare definitely looks a lot better. I have both in my collection, but I would definitely choose the Secret Rare in terms of aesthetic and then the Ultra Rare in terms of rarity as well as history. But that's pretty simple, right? I definitely don't recommend the gold version of this card. I cannot stand that rarity, and you're doing your collection a disservice by having it in your binder. But that's pretty much it. Let's get on to the next card, which is extremely unique in my opinion, and that is the Collector Tin Dark Magician. So this card first appeared in the Collector Tin from 2016, and this is the only like rare printing of this card. It's coded CT14-EN001, and this is one of the most unique releases because there is barely any reprints of this card. It is extremely unique. We've never had anything like it, to be honest with you. The Secret Rare pattern is absolutely gorgeous. I highly recommend it for any Dark Magician collector. I actually think it's top 2 or 3 artworks for all of the Dark Magician. You can get the whole promo packet sealed for like $15-20. Add it to your collection. I promise you, you're not going to regret it. It goes for around $5. If that's not within your budget, there is a reprint copy that was released in 2017, but I think most people should be able to pick it up at $5. Alright, we're finally at the last 2 cards. This one, in my opinion, was also done dirty. This was released in Dual Power, one of the most overprinted products of all time. It unfortunately got such poor treatment because it was released only as an Ultra Rare. In Japan, it got 20th anniversary Starlight Rare, so like, I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous on that side. On our side, we merely got an Ultra Rare and it looks so bad. Like, oh man, like if I didn't have to have this artwork in my collection, I would not even collect this card. And this card was so overprinted that you can pick it up for pretty much a couple of bucks. I don't really think it will have long-term value, but I would definitely say that if you are a Dark Magician collector and you need every artwork, this is the only way to get this one, and it's extremely cheap, so why not? And lastly is the new Bandai one that was released last year. This is pretty much a redrawn Bandai Dark Magician on a modern Yu-Gi-Oh card. This is kind of cool. It's pretty much 1 per case for Battles of Chaos, and it has no alternatives. So in terms of modern Dark Magicians, this is definitely up there in price. It goes for around $80 to $100. In my opinion, it's actually kind of undervalued. The artwork is not that great. It's a little too simplistic for my liking, but it has a lot of history behind it, and it has a lot of lore, and the fact that it has no reprints, I mean, that says says a lot. However, there is a chance that it could be re-released as a Starlight Rare, for example, which pretty much means that the ultra rare is done for. So I would suggest you tread lightly on this card. I wouldn't go too ham with it, but I do have one for my own personal collection because I think it's a great addition. So that's a list of all the Dark Magicians. Some special mentions that I think should be included here are the Volume 1 Dark Magician. Now this is an OCG exclusive, that's why I didn't include it on this list. This card is the first Yu-Gi-Oh card ever. It has a lot of history behind it. It's from an extremely rare box. In my opinion, I think it has amazing value. It was reprinted in the 2018 Duelist box, and the way that you can tell the difference is from the Eye of Anubis stamp, so the original doesn't have that. This reprint definitely hurt the value of the original Volume 1, but those who know what they're looking at, they understand what this card represents and the history behind it. Imagine the first official Yu-Gi-Oh card ever made by Konami. It has so much lore, man. Like, that is so badass, and in my opinion, it's a staple for any Dark Magician collector. And the second shout out that I want to bring up is the Labyrinth of Nightmare, or LN53 Dark Magician on the OCG side. This is the only ultimate rare of the original anime artwork, and even if they were to do an ultimate rare today, it will never come close to how good that original printing looks like. You are getting quality OCG ultimate rares from back in the day, and it doesn't matter what Konami does today in order to reprint and revitalize ultimate rares, they will never ever come close to their prime, which is the Series 2 layout in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters OCG era. So I highly recommend these two if you are going to dabble in Japanese, but that's pretty much the list for every single Dark Magician ever released. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you guys want to see more of these collector guides? I have so many. I have a Blue Eyes one that I made when I came back to collecting. I have a Dark Magician Girl. I have a Dark Paladin, Dark Sage, every single Dark Magician out there. But this is kind of different for my channel, so I would love your input on whether I should continue this series. If you guys want to support the channel, hit the like button, that goes a long way. Subscribe if you want to see more. And if you want to support me further, I have a Patreon, and you can also use the link in the comments. I'm going to be putting up a list from TCG Player with every single one of these cards, so you can go ahead and grab them if you're interested. You can also pick yourself up your own Gardner binder. I make them myself. They're extremely high quality, and they're the binders that you saw featured in this video. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you learned something. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.